On the 7th consecutive day, Israeli criminality escalates, leaving 115 citizens dead and 1,000 injured in the ongoing Israeli aggression on the Gaza Strip. The Syrian National Dialogue Conference concludes its meetings in Tehran, emphasizing rejection of foreign intervention and violence and deciding to form a committee to follow up dialogue. Following his meeting with Clinton, Lavrov says decisions should not be taken on behalf of the Syrian people and all sides must be pressured to start dialogue. Good afternoon, this is Yarado Krikorian with the news in English. The Israeli aggression on Gaza continues today for the 7th consecutive day, with more barbaric massacres being committed against the Palestinians, leaving so far 115 citizens dead and 1,000 injured, mostly women and children. The Zionist killing machinery continues its barbaric aggressions on Gaza as Israeli warplanes keep shelling Palestinian towns and villages, killing and wounding innocent civilians amidst international silence. The death toll of Palestinians has risen to more than 120 martyrs and 1,000 citizens have been injured since the beginning of the aggression. Among the martyrs are 26 children and 10 women, and among the wounded are 260 children and 140 women. Israeli guns have not spared worshipping places, as 25 mosques in Gaza have been reportedly targeted since the beginning of the war on the Strip. The Palestinian resistance retaliates with its Grad and 107 missiles, hitting Israeli settlements in Tel Aviv, Kiryat Malachi, Beersheba, Beer Tibia, Sderot, Kizovim, Hawaf, Escalon and Ashkol, injuring a number of settlers and an armor officer. It has compelled Israeli warplanes at Ben Gurion airport to change their flight course. Shooting was heard near the American embassy. One of the guards was injured. As Gaza suffers under Israeli fire and continues to resist, the Arabs are immersed in their silence, dedicating their efforts to more mercenaries and arms to be sent to Syria. The spokesman of the Ministry of Health of the deposed Palestinian government in Gaza, Mr. Ashraf al-Qudra, has declared that hospitals in the Strip are running short of medicines and medical requirements due to the increasing numbers of injured people as a result of the ongoing Israeli aggression on Gaza. He said that nothing of the assistance promised by the Arab foreign ministers in support of the Palestinian people's steadfastness has arrived. In a telephone call with Al-Manar channel, al-Qudra said, Palestinian medical crew are still working steadily day and night, offering health services to citizens who receive with open chests this aggression. He added that the present situation would be a real problem and would obstruct the health services if the necessary medical requirements are not made available and in the quantities required. Al-Qudra said the Israeli aggression has particularly targeted residential quarters, houses and unarmed civilians gatherings. Archbishop Atallah Hanna of the Greek Orthodox Church in occupied Jerusalem has expressed the solidarity of the people of Jerusalem with their brothers in Gaza who are subject to the Israeli barbaric killing machinery. In an interview with a TV news correspondent in occupied Jerusalem, Hanna said, those who conspire against Gaza are the same sides who conspire against Syria as a result of the latter's stand on the side of Arab right and its role in resisting the Zionist American project in the region. Hezbollah Secretary General Mr. Hassan Nasrallah paid respect to the Palestinian resistance that is confronting the Israeli aggression, asserting that the future of the region is shaped by the alliance
and not by sheep. In a speech yesterday commemorating the anniversary of Ashura, Mr. Nasrallah said that the real challenge is that when the Arab and the Islamic countries would have the courage to send arms to Gaza, as the Israeli enemy is betting on finishing the rocket pile stops of the Palestinian resistance men. Therefore, it is important to open the borders so that more rockets would reach the resistance men. Mr. Nasrallah wondered about the Arabs who pay money to buy weapons and send them by ships to the terrorist groups in Syria, but dare not send a single cartridge to Gaza. Mr. Nasrallah added that although there are some political leaders in the Arab world who believe that they are sheep, but they shouldn't speak for their people, because the Arab people, over 60 years of Arab-Israeli conflict, and despite the compromises of their leaders, have remained resisting, sacrificing and achieving victories. Thus, Palestine and Al-Quds remained their main cause, and it will continue to be so. Terrorists today targeted with 2 mortar shells Al-Ba'ath Foundation for Press and Publications in Al-Mazeh Highway. The first shell fell on the building's facade and the second on the garage, causing material damage. No casualties or injuries among citizens have been reported. In Damascus, a unit of our valiant army clashed with a terrorist group today in Al-Amin Street in the neighborhood of Al-Tadamun, killing many terrorists and seizing their weapons. An official source said that an engineering unit defused 2 explosive devices that were planted by the terrorists near the police station in the neighborhood. One was weighing 25 kilograms and the other 40 kilograms of highly burning explosives. The source added that a field hospital was found in the neighborhood containing large quantities of medicine and medical equipment that the terrorists had looted from some hospitals and medical centers. Our armed forces today continued their national task in pursuing terrorists, inflicting on them heavy losses. In Deir ez-Zor, an army unit eliminated several terrorists and injured others in Sheikh Yassin neighborhood in the city. In Al-Hasaka, a unit of our Syrian Arab army foiled an attempt by the terrorists to detonate an explosive device weighing 20 kilograms of TNT that was planted in a crowded residential neighborhood in the area of Jawadiyeh. Engineering units successfully defused the device and no one was injured. In Idlib, the Syrian Arab army clashed with a terrorist group near the fig factory on the road of Harem in Idlib countryside. Many terrorists were killed and 5 others were arrested. The Syrian National Dialogue Conference has affirmed in its final communiqué in Tehran its rejection of any form of foreign intervention in Syria's internal affairs. The conference has decided to form a committee to follow up national dialogue and realize national reconciliation.
At the conclusion of its meetings in Tehran, the Syrian National Dialogue Conference has asserted rejection of any form of foreign intervention in Syria's internal affairs. It underlined the need to exert efforts to start comprehensive national dialogue and realize national reconciliation. The conference has decided to form a committee to follow up Syrian national dialogue. It will be assigned the task of making the necessary preparations for the upcoming meeting on dialogue in Damascus. The committee can be enlarged to include other new figures and forces. The final communique of the conference has considered the situation in Syria as reaching the state of an open sharp crisis that requires special solutions to be attained through comprehensive national dialogue with the least costs possible. It called for starting a political process and a roadmap to be outlined and decided by the Syrians themselves without any foreign intervention, with a view of reaching a peaceful democratic change through the ballot boxes. The communique pointed out that the participants called on Iran in particular and the BRICS member countries to exercise all possible and earnest pressures on the Turkish regime due to the latter's central, dangerous and direct role in the crisis in Syria, as it supports and encourages, like several World and Gulf countries, armed men in violation of international laws. Such behavior also encroaches on Syria's national sovereignty, the communique added. The participants in the conference called on the UN and human rights organizations to interfere to stop the dangerous violations, whether in terms of statements, direct military interventions, or training offered to armed groups to enable them carry out assassination operations, as Britain is now doing. The statement denounced all kinds of terrorism and instigation for sectarianism and civil war, as well as all forms of foreign intervention in Syria. It condemned the economic blockade imposed on the country and all forms of other sanctions that harm the Syrian people. The participants thanked the Iranian people and government for hosting the conference and for the sincere intentions aimed at encouraging all sides to attend for the sake of dialogue and democracy.
Iranian Foreign Minister Ali Akbar Saleh affirmed that Iran has taken the initiative and paved the way for starting national dialogue in Syria, adding that concerned parties will undertake to follow it up. Saleh also referred to the agreement approved by the conference to form a committee to follow up the comprehensive Syrian national dialogue, declaring that this committee shall include all Syrian parties and its members should be qualified and popular figures in the country. The Iranian National Security's Supreme Council Secretary Saeed Jalili has met Deputy Prime Minister for Economic Affairs Qadri Jamil and the Minister of State for National Reconciliation Dr. Ali Haidar, and affirmed that national dialogue and democracy are the way to solve the Syrian crisis, pointing that Tehran's conference is considered as a practical step in confronting violence in Syria. During the meeting, Jalili also affirmed that all governments and parties who don't support this are considered as supporters of violence and against democracy. He also pointed that Syria and the Syrian people are paying the price of their support for the Palestinian resistance, declaring that resistance is the main axis of unity in the region and the Islamic world against the Zionist entity. Regarding the Israeli aggression against Gaza, Jalili criticized the silence of the West, US and their allies about the crimes and massacres committed by the Zionist entity. Meanwhile, Jamil and Haidar have expressed their appreciation of Iran's initiative related to holding the conference of the Syrian National Reconciliation, considering a political solution as the only way to solve the Syrian crisis. He stressed the necessity of making all efforts in order to stop violence and holding a comprehensive dialogue that serves the Syrian people and their supreme interests. Iran's foreign ministry spokesman Ramin Mahmoudbrest said that the Western countries are further escalating violence in Syria by providing weapons to the terrorists in order to impose their own will on Syria. He pointed out to Iran's rejection of any foreign intervention in Syria. Mahmoudbrest added that the countries that support the foreign military intervention in Syria are the same countries that keep silent towards the crimes committed by the Zionist entity against the Palestinian people in Gaza. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov discussed with his U.S. counterpart Hillary Clinton the crisis in Syria and the Israeli aggression on Gaza. After talks with Clinton in the Cambodian capital, Phnom Penh, Lavrov said that Russia and Washington haven't agreed yet on a common position concerning the situation in Syria. Lavrov added that Clinton underlined that Washington is interested in Geneva Convention. Lavrov said that this would lead nowhere as long as there are specific warnings and strict deadlines. Lavrov emphasized the need not to take decisions on behalf of the Syrian people, saying that instead pressure must be exerted on everyone to sit down at the table of dialogue in order to find a solution to the crisis. Concerning the Israeli aggression on Gaza, Lavrov proposed a meeting to be held by the International Quartet Committee to discuss the crisis in Gaza, asserting Russia's support for the Arab initiatives and the need to discuss a draft document that calls for a truce between the Palestinians and the Israelis. With this, we end our news for today. Thank you for watching. For more news about Syria and the region and to view our bulletin again, you can always visit our website in English, syriaonline.sy. And now to the latest business and market news with Vani Gunjan after a short break.